Welcome to Prog Talk on Bongo Long Music. I'm Frank Long, also known as Bongo Long. With me today is Bill Noland. Bill Noland is from one of my favorite groups of all time, instrumental, symphonic, progressive. The band Eccentric Orbit has two great, wonderful albums. He's also in a rock band called Brave Pursuit with his wife, also EO, Eccentric Orbit. He's with his wife, Madeline. And then he's actually doing a gig tonight with a Jethro Tull.
No, this is a different band.
Oh,
this is yet a different band. This is a Latin jazz band that I just joined recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do jazz standards, Latin, traditional Latin songs, and contemporary songs done with a Latin feel.
How big is
I'm
that
enjoying
group?
it because I get to play my fretless bass again, which I had to drop because I was in another band that I was playing fretless, and that band folded. So yeah.
What? That's not Brave Pursuit.
That is not Brave. No, that was not Brave Pursuit. That was a completely different group.
Okay.
Yeah, group up in the North Shore of Massachusetts that I played.
But you are in a tribute, Jethro Tull tribute.
I am. That's right. We have a gig on
the gallery.
Yeah, we have a gig on the 30th.
Led by, what's his name?
Chris Devine, who some proggers may know from Richie Blackmore's Night album, Fires at Midnight.
Wow.
He plays violin and recorders and various instruments on that record, and he toured extensively with Richie. Yeah, so he's a classically trained violinist, but he has been a rocker all his life and a huge Jethro Tull fan, especially, he's a very good, accomplished flute player, flautist, if you will.
And he can play all these instruments on one foot.
He can play them all on one foot. Sometimes I don't think his feet actually touch the ground at all.
That's cool. And so what's the name of this new group?
Nectar.
Nectar.
Yeah, not with a K, just with a C.
Actually, how it's spelled.
Yeah. NEC. Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's sweet.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
I love Latin jazz.
Yeah.
Like the first two Return to Forever albums.
We're playing Spain and 500 Miles High tonight.
The only thing that could make that better for me is La Fiesta also.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
We might learn that eventually.
Airto on that was just crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have vocals?
Yes, so we have a female singer. She's very good. Yep. She even scats solos, and the guitar player actually is playing all classical guitar. So it's classical guitar, bass guitar. It's
basically acoustic.
Yes, all acoustic. That's right. Yeah.
You have a keyboard?
No keys. It's just a 4-piece with the singer who does some percussion, and then we have a drummer who plays a percussion-oriented kit. So so it's all percussion. He can play with sticks or with his hands, and he's very good. He's my old childhood friend who practically got me into music. He's a big prog head too. So
that's awesome. I'd love to.
Yeah.
Get some pictures. I want to see that kit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will do.
Anyway, let's move on. So I challenged Bill and myself to find albums or groups. I think Bill was going to focus more on groups. I focus more on albums of obscure, weird, quirky, hard to listen to, basically music that you're not going to put on in the background with candles and soft lights. It's music that you're probably going to have to sit and listen to. So you want to go ahead and start off with your first one?
I can, yeah. I took a slightly, for me, I took a more of a, I didn't know that we wanted to go as sort of out in atonal, although I have a little bit of that here, but certainly
it wasn't necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. But
Off the beaten path.
off the beaten path is definitely the case. Yeah. So the first band I'd like to talk to, actually, this is a twofer, because the group I want to talk about is a derivative of an Australian band called Snakes Alive. If you can see Snakes Alive, yeah, this is a crazy album. I got a while back when it was reissued, and it's good. It's a little raw. 50 copies were pressed in Australia back in 1970. I'm going to say 3 or something like that. It's a cool record. I would compare it with like Lift and Mirth and Deer and some of that kind of, you know, crazy second tier American prog type stuff. But amazingly, Snakes Alive did not survive. Who would have thunk it? But they formed another band that went through 2 iterations. And the band is called Steps. And the Steps CD, the record that they released, also 50 copies in Australia back in the mid 1970s, was just, whoops, how was it? There's a little light here, so I'm just showing the cover. Was just released. The album is called Waltz for Tiger Joe. And the record was actually put out by the second iteration of Steps, what they sort of call Steps 2, where they add a female vocalist. And this time, instead of being kind of more on the sort of, symphonic, yes, influence type stuff, this is more of a Canterbury sound. And they have that kind of jazz undercurrent. And the female vocalist is clearly, she's a scat singer as well. So she does some scat singing on the record. Very beautiful, pure voice, very good vocals, very interesting melodies with lots of interesting intervals. The band that they compare themselves to is the Belgian band Koz. I don't know if you know them, but they're sort of Belgium's answer to the Canterbury scene, and they're excellent. A little off the wall kind of jazzy stuff, but very, very good instrumentalists who have a very melodic soloing style, and all of that applies to Steps. So on this record, if you get the CD, or I'm sure they have downloads available somewhere, Bandcamp, whatever. You've got the entire Waltz for Tiger Joe record, but then there's 4 additional tracks. So this is an 80-minute CD. The 4 additional tracks are from the first iteration of Steps, where they didn't have the female vocalist, so it's all instrumental. And the 4 songs are not songs that they kind of redo with vocals, so it's all new material. And it's awesome. It is just really, it's actually easy to listen to, but if you listen to it carefully, so you can have it on in the background. If you listen to it in the back, if you listen to it carefully, there's a lot of intricate playing going on, a lot of really clever lines and things, and great keyboard sounds, mostly piano and stuff, but he does incorporate synthesizers and whatnot. Great little guitar lines, and then the vocalist adds a wonderful dimension. So really, really interesting stuff that I've not seen anybody talk about it at all. I've got it. They had it on. Right, exactly. Never heard of it. So I think it's a gem, and I think it's one that people, especially anybody into the Canterbury scene, should be all over this one. It's got a little elements of Cultivator, the Scandinavian band. I think they're Swedish. So it's got some elements of that. So anybody into that kind of scene and that sound, I think would really love Steps. Stepps.
Puppies. All right. That sounds cool. All right, my first one is Cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Where are you?
Yep.
And this is actually, I got this way back there was a website, I can't remember the name of it. It was something like M&M Music or something. And that's where I found Eccentric Orbit, because they always had, the guy always had a nice blurb and gave you, you know, and things like, if you like so-and-so, you'll like this. Or,
Right.
and so it's actually, this is a compilation of their two albums.
Yep.
The first one was Cartoon from 1982, and then Music from Left Field, 1983. Now,
keep going. Keep going.
have you got the actual?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, you got Sortie.
Yep.
So yeah, I would say that, I mean, this is Quirky. I would say that it is cartoon music, but I would think that maybe if Carl Stalling or Milt Franklin from Warner Brothers took acid and then wrote, you're going to have cartoon.
Right.
They do get melodic, and there's some intricate playing. Some of it's just almost sounds like they're just improvising, going off, but it does sound written. But a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's
a fun.
real fun record. You do know who M&M Music was, don't you?
There's something that I should remember.
Yeah, M&M was Mark Marcella's company. That's how I met Mark at Nearfest in 2000.
Okay, did he put Eccentric Orbit on there?
He did.
The first one.
Exactly. That's right. I mean, he was the drummer in Eccentric Orbit. He's the drummer on the first record. Yeah.
Yeah.
We met at Nearfest. He was a vendor there, and I found out he was from Massachusetts, and I just asked him if he knew any drummers, and he's like, "Well, I'm a drummer," so that's how we met. I'm sure I got the Cartoon album from him. He was a huge Cartoon fan, and he, I mean, tons of the stuff I have, I picked up from Mark, because he'd let me borrow things, and to check them out, and so yeah. But Cartoon was he was a big fan. He was a big fan of the whole cartoons and Three Stooges and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he was.
So he probably knew about Carl Stalling and Milt Franklin.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Amazing composers.
Right. Yeah.
There's a thing in Spokane. By the way, I'm in Idaho.
Yep.
Kellogg, very Panhandle, and we usually have to go to Spokane, which is about 70 miles away, to see really anything. And the Spokane Symphony's doing a Carl Stalling concert with the cartoons.
Interesting, fun. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So
good.
Oh, did I lose you?
Nope, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. What?
No, that was I was just answering you. Yep.
Yeah, that would be fun to go to. But anyway, so what's your next one?
Okay, so the next one is a band, unusually from South Korea. This is a band called Arkitekture, and they came out with a record, I think it was the year before last. And I don't know, I'm not certain how I got onto them, but I was intrigued because my wife worked for LG Electronics for many years, and she still works the standards body that she sits on in the television industry. She still has strong connections with Samsung, LG, and South Korean television manufacturers. So she goes there with frequency, and so I was very interested in hearing this, and so I heard some samples, and I immediately wanted to get the CD. So I contacted them and I said, you don't have any domestic distribution, but the bass player, who is the sort of key person in the band, was kind enough to send me one. It did cost a little bit in postage, but we got to be very good friends. Arkitekture is a very interesting group. They come from another band. I can't remember what the name of that group is now, but there's another group that they had doing somewhat similar stuff, but this is an evolution. And the lineup is keyboards, drums, bass. Sangman Kim is the bass player. And then they have a female violinist and a female doubler who doubles on saxophone and flute. Mm. And the music is a very interesting mishmash of dark, brooding, kind of Crimson-esque sort of things. The music sort of unfolds with various riffs that kind of interlock and sort of grow and ebb and flow organically. But then with the flute and the violin on top of that, you sometimes get a sort of a symphonic element coming in as well. So it's very fresh and interesting. I don't know that I hear a lot of necessarily anything that I would say, well, that sounds like Korean music or anything like that. I think this is a group that's ensconced in European, prog rock, everything from Zoil to Crimson, and even into the Gentle Giants and the Yeses and the things like that. So, but it's all instrumental, very, very interesting stuff, and very fresh. You think it's not chamber rock, it's definitely rocking stuff. But there's melodic, as there is in King Crimson, there's melodic moments and whatnot. So, and it's just unusual to have a band from South Korea. So yeah, very good stuff. Arkitekture.
Cool.
With a K, Arkikture.
So my next, and we need to welcome Kirk Herron, who runs the Gentle Giant project and Facebook page. Hi. What you looking at? I'm over here.
I got my son here. He's I think it's iPad time. So anyway.
Well, okay. So I did a quick change. Remember, Bill, I said that I thought of something, and this is from 1968. Okay. And there were two albums that my buddy and I would listen to after altering our reality. And the one was Fireside Theater, How Can You Be in Two Places at Once When You're Not Anywhere at All? And the other was the Wozard of Is. It's Mort Garson. It's all Moog and voices. It's basically a psychedelic hippie retelling of The Wizard of Oz. The Yellow Green Road, Leave the Driving Desk, Upset Strip, Never Follow the Yellow Green Road. They're off to find the Wozard. I've Been Over the Rainbow, Killing the Witch, bunch of stuff. It's very clever, very dated, of course, but having gone through that period, I enjoyed it immensely. So Mort Garson, the Wozard of Is.
Cool.
And we're going to have links to be able to sample all these guys. All right, so Uncle Bill.
Oh, back to me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna pass it to Madeline actually for this one. We got to welcome her as well. Yeah, because she joined.
Oh, that's right.
Our little interregnum.
Yeah. So Madeline Noland, the better half of the Nolands. Keyboard, wind synth, member of Eccentric Orbit, very important member actually, and Brave Pursuit. And you guys have a band at where you work, right?
We do. We have the ATSC house band called the Multicasters, which was a lot of fun to play last year because it was our company's 40th anniversary. So that means that our company was born in 1983, which meant that we did an 80s set. And I have to say kudos to the band, number one, for playing really, really well. Actually, the band did great. And number two, for actually finding a set list from the 80s that we all liked.
Yeah, songs we all actually enjoyed.
Songs that we all enjoyed. It was a lot of fun. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy 80s music when I was in the 80s.
No.
But once I got away from it, and there was some good stuff.
Yep.
But after the 70s, you go like, well, I don't know.
Exactly.
So what was your pick, Metal?
My pick is a band called Masal, and we have 4 of their albums, which I believe are all 4.
That's all 4.
All 4.
Mhm.
One called Galgal, one called, geez,
Yeah,
Vins de Cortvent.
you don't have to go through them all.
I think I won't go through
Yeah.
them all. Anyway,
There's 4 of them.
there's 4 of them.
How do
And
you spell Masal?
Masal.
Okay.
So if we had to compare them to somebody, is there a point of reference?
Well, I'll start with that. So first of all, why do I like Masal? I'm selfishly going to say I like Masal because the keyboards and the saxophone are terrific and they're front and center, and those are my 2 instruments. But I would also say that one of the special things about them for me are that they have kind of that angular rhythm that you might think of from bird songs of Mesozoic, but they're not anything like bird songs at all. They're much more melodic, and much more, they range from that intensity all the way to the beautiful. The melodies are memorable, and they are incredible musicians. So, Bill, who would you say you would compare them to most closely? I mean, Ghost Rhythms comes to mind, but that might be
Right.
a little obscure. I don't know.
Yeah, if folks know Ghost Rhythms, I mean, I would put Masal into the chamber rock sort of genre, but I would say that they rock a little bit more than a lot of chamber rock. They don't use like cellos and violins and stuff. It's sax, piano, drums, and bass, I believe. But it actually gets pretty rocking at times. The pianist is actually a guy named Jean-Paul Prat, who released a record in the 70s, a Zoil record called Masal. And so now he's back playing piano. I believe his son is playing drums in Masal, and he's named the band Masal. So it's an evolution of that. And it was interesting, Madeline said the rhythms. I think the rhythmic elements are very strong in this music, which sort of separates it from a lot of chamber rock, which to me gets a little, I don't know, a little monotonous in that regard. This is really, there's a lot of interesting, tricky rhythms and lots of stuff going on in that regard. So similar to Ghost Rhythms, they fall in that
I've not heard of Ghost Rhythms.
Oh yeah, they're I mean they're huge. They're a French band, as I believe is Masal.
It is, yep.
Yeah, they really have come on the scene very strong. They're another one in sort of in the chamber rock genre. And they have a wonderful album called Madeline, which is the musical telling of Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. Yeah, it's really, it's a double album, very, very good record, although not my favorite of theirs. They've got a couple of others that are also extraordinary. But yeah, I think Masal flies a little under the radar compared to Ghost Rhythms in the proggy world. I mean, all this stuff is under the radar, but yeah, but I really think they captured me and Madeline, where a lot of other chamber rock sort of does not. So they're definitely worth a listen, worth a sample.
Absolutely.
Well,
Underscore the word rock in chamber rock.
I'm definitely going to be checking out a lot of things.
Well, that was my pick, and you mischaracterized me as the better half of the Noland. Bill is definitely the better half, particularly when it comes to Prog. So I'm going to turn the scene back over to Mr. Bill,
All right.
and I will take my leave. That was my pick. I hope everybody checks it out and enjoys it.
Well, thank you. Actually, you're the better looking half.
There you go. That's for sure.
All right. Have a great show.
All right. Thanks.
See ya. Thanks for coming. Okay. So I've got one here that this is, these next three are like favorites of mine. This is a group called Hardscore. One word, Hardscore. This might be hard to see, but the album is called Monkey Trial. This is very Zappa-esque. It's like it's almost like a audio drama. Interspersed between the musical numbers is this tale of a woman that can speak to animals, and she has a monkey named Bubba, and he's disappeared, so she hires a detective to find him. The instrumentation is piano, synthesizers, saxophones, bass drums, electric guitars, sorted madness and vocals in the soundscapes. And also a lot of marimba. And it's very quirky. Like I say, Zappa-esque. Kind of hip Zappa, I guess you could say. They also have a couple of other albums called Methane and Surf, Wind, and Desire. And these are also very good. They're mostly just instrumental. But Monkey Trial.
Yeah. Where are they
Hardscore.
from?
That's a good question.
And also, what era are we talking about? Is this like
Oh, yeah. So,
thousands?
yeah. So the first album was Methane, 98.
Okay.
And then Surf, Wind, Desire, 2000. And Monkey
Okay.
Trial, 2004. They released something in 2021, Beat Love Oracle versus Hardscore. Don't Count on Us. I haven't heard that.
Okay.
I believe they may be French. Yeah, if you look at the names, Belgian.
Oh, cool. Yeah, interesting.
Belgian.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got the lead singer has a great voice, and it's fun stuff. Fun stuff. And you got to listen to it.
I will.
Have you ever heard of that, Kirk? Any
No, I haven't.
Hardscore?
No, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to be the guy that my interest in Prog is really narrow, and it's not just, you can name your basic seven, okay, and Gentle Giant, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull, King Crimson, yes, Rush. I mean, you have the core that everybody kind of starts with in Prog. But for me, this book here, this Strawberry Bricks Guide to Progressive Rock, he also, Charles Snyder, he also kind of limits his view of actual Prog to 1969 to 1980. And for me, that kind of rings true. I just haven't had too many bands outside of my main favorites that really connected with me. And I think a lot of it has to do with, first of all, the sound. There were keyboards that are classic 1970 to 1980 keyboards. Bass forward, like, you know, eccentric orbit. I would consider there's generation 1, which is the 1970 to 1980, but there's generation 2, like Advent and eccentric orbit, where for them, that is Prog. They made their own music, but you could almost take eccentric orbit and Advent and some of their music that could have fit in that era and it wouldn't have seemed out of place. The drums are characteristically, I wouldn't say jazz influence, but it's you know, the drums kind of, they really have to work hard to encapsulate the music, keep it on track, but also, you know, the drums are an interesting part of the music. And the vocals. I'd say the vocals in the 1970s progressive rock, it had a certain sound. I would say the Yes Fragile album and Close to the Edge, that for me, that's progressive rock. So as I've
Definitely the starting
kind of,
point.
you know, when I came on the internet
foundation.
and I started my own Gentle Giant fan group on Facebook, I was exposed to a lot of stuff I didn't know was out there. And now that you look at stuff on YouTube and Spotify, yeah, I've expanded my horizons, but there aren't too many bands that really strike a chord with me, like, you know, Gentle Giant did, like, yes, like, you know, Jethro Tull and King Crimson, and I've found a few. You know, Frank, you sent me some Green Slade. Believe it or not, I'd never heard them. You know, there are some kind of newer people that like Bobby Shock. I like some of his. I like his music. He I don't know if you characterize him as progressive rock, but that's his main interest in music, and you can tell in the albums that he makes. So I'm becoming more open-minded. I think there's a lot of people of my age. You know, I'm 52 and caught the, you know, the tail end, or at least I was alive during most of the progressive rock era. But I think we all kind of look at those 10 years as that was progressive rock. Now there's some like Osibisa. Have you ever heard of them? Kind of an African music influenced.
Oh, OCB, yeah.
It's really out there. There's others like that I'm discovering that, you know, I like, but there's so many that you could throw at me from you know, just what you would call strange or unusual, and it just wouldn't click with me. But that's how I am.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
I'm
a
open to new
special
stuff.
area.
I think it's a good thing to do.
It's a special area that we're looking at today. That
Audio.
you know, it's not your standard progressive. But anyway, and that's part of the reason I wanted to do this, was to expose people to some things out there that they may or may not like. But then a lot of times it leads to maybe something that we didn't even talk about. I got the Flower Kings, World of Adventures. Is it that one? No, Metropolis. I didn't know who they were. I liked the album cover. I bought it. And then I discovered through that, Neil Morse, all the Roy and Stolt, which then got me into things like Ritual. And so one album can just open up a whole world. So anyway,
That's true.
what you got, Bill?
Next up, so I'm gonna just leave them aside for a minute. So I started off with Snakes Alive and Steps. I considered that kind of a 2-for-1 since the two bands were related, and I'm going to do that again here. This is a contemporary Spanish band called Gravity Fields.
Gravity Hill Fields.
Yeah,
Gravity Fields.
Gravity Fields. Yep. And their album is called Diffusion. They are the successors to a band called On the Raw that put out 2 CDs in the 2010s, like 2017, 2018 period in there. And so it's all instrumental music. On the Raw is, I would say, a proggy fusion band. Think about bands like Bill Bruford's solo stuff, Helmet of Gnats.
I
Stuff.
like them.
Yeah, sort of in that kind of vein. They're maybe just one step to the, I don't know, to the left, let's say. They're one step to the left into somewhat more of a jazzy sound. They've got some sax and stuff like that, but it's still very, very grounded in composed instrumental progressive rock that has space for improvisation and whatnot. Gravity Fields is basically the same group of people. This one I don't think has the saxophone, and they've got some personnel. They had some personnel changes, so they take a different approach. This is more squarely in the rock zone, and so it's a little bit heavier. You get some kind of Rush elements and whatnot. The keyboards are a little bit more on the synths as opposed to some like a lot of Rhodes piano on the raw type of stuff. But they still have what for me is always the key. And I would almost sort of go back to what Kirk was talking about, that period in the 70s, the 80s, the golden time. I mean, one of the things that really jumps out at me about the fusion of that period, which is another whole, sort of related genre to the progressive rock. Talk about the Demiolas and the Return to Forevers and the Mahavishnus and whatnot, is that they always had such a strong sense of a melodic center. And yeah, you got hot playing and you got chops and you got all this kind of stuff, but the tunes were just so great. And that's what Chris Fox from Helmet of Gnats talks about. It's like, great chops in the service of great tunes. And he and I are pretty good friends. And Gravity Fields and On the Raw are right up that alley. So, you've got great playing, you got hot stuff, but, each song it's not just another jam fest. It's like they're crafted, they're composed, and they have different moods and different approaches and different sounds and but they all, they develop in interesting ways. They're well composed. And I've corresponded with these folks. They're lovely people in Spain, and I'm just blown away by the quality of both of these bands. But Gravity Fields is really the one. That's their current band, well worth checking out. And I think it would appeal to a ton of people, but nobody knows about them. So it's a good one to get.
Kind of like Gentle Giant.
Kind of like Gentle Giant, yeah. Except even, Gentle Giant is pretty well known within the prog sphere. So a band like Gravity Fields is going to appeal to people who like the kind of, the Rush and the stuff like that, and who are
fusion
and the fusion stuff, but nobody knows about them. Yeah.
You brought up a couple of things that were good. Yeah, Helmet of Gnats, High Street. I mean,
Yes.
I dig them, and it, they don't really fit into any, progressive rock shape. They go their own direction, but it's really good, solid music. The other thing was that you said, I think that's one of the reasons that I am so kind of limited in what I like, was what you struck on. Where a band has me or loses me is, you've got to have musicianship. That's the cornerstone of progressive rock. I mean, it's, multi-instrumentalists, people that are just the top, leading talent edge of the instruments they play. But you've got to have melody, you've got to have tune, you know, themes within an album, concept albums. Those are the things that strike a chord with me. And that's why Rush lost me after Roll the Bones. I mean, they
Lasted
wrote
longer than I did.
well, yeah, but I mean, they just totally lost me because all of what drew me to their music was it was just gone. I mean, Test for Echo and you know, I can't even think of the other ones. They just lost me because like the quintessential album that I can get lost in is Close to the Edge. There's this part where you know it's almost surreal. You feel like you're in this great big cave listening to this music, and it's you get lost in it, and the melody and the emotion that's in Yes's music in Fragile and Close to the Edge, you've got to have that because otherwise it's just, you know, you got chops and it just doesn't hook me. You know what I mean?
Right. Totally.
Yeah, I have so many areas that because I'm a topographic oceans #1 for me for Yes.
Yeah.
Passion play for Jethro Tull. I want to be able to Patrick Moraz's Story of I want to be able to start someplace and end. But then I also love the little short stuff, which brings me to this band, which I believe is another Belgian. I can't remember. But
Get
it's
your buddy there.
the name is Alamaailman Vasarat. And the album is Vasaraasia in 2002.
It's like Alamaailman Vasarat. Yeah. Right.
Are you familiar with this band?
I am. I saw them at Nearfest. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yep.
So I'm not going to tell you what the guys' names are because but basically you have saxophones, drums, pump organ, and like trombone. There is nobody I can compare them to. But to me, it sounds like a Clemser band playing for a circus conducted by Frank Zappa. It is wild. It is, and they play around with some rhythm stuff. They mess around. They one of the tunes starts off and you go, yeah, I can dig it. And all of a sudden the other instrument comes in and it just turns it completely around. And they've got a number of albums. I haven't heard them all. Caramelila Taka Tunta. Just have you got any of these guys?
I don't have any of their records. I think they're Scandinavian, actually. I think they're Finnish. I'd have to check, but I think that they're I think
Could be right. I forgot to check that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw them at Nearfest. And yes, I think when you say the sort of klezmer, the Frank Zappa meets klezmer, it's definitely, yeah, they're pretty wild. Yeah, pretty wild stuff. Yeah.
I got one for you, and it just came to mind. I don't even know if you would really say it was progressive rock. Or progressive. It might be more jazz fusion, but are you familiar with Greg Bendian and Interzone?
No.
Greg Bendian's, I tell you, Greg Bendian's band Interzone had an album called Myriad, and it was one of those it was just jaw dropping. He's a percussionist, plays drums and vibraphone, and but he has a album that was based on the life of Jack Kirby. It was a tribute to him. He dedicated his first album to Gentle Giant, and he got a lot of flack for that. But Myriad, if you haven't listened to that, it's just mind blowing. It goes in places that I didn't think music could go. It's just astounding. I think King Crimson kind of had that effect on people. When they had their first concerts, people just thought they were from another planet. They just were like mesmerized because they've never heard anything like this before. I like when music goes in that direction, not too avant-garde, weird, but when it brings something new to the table.
What era is
I
that?
don't think a lot of people.
Is that a more? Is he a modern artist, or is he
Yeah,
got
it's like 1990s, I think, is when he.
Okay.
I want to say, but
Okay.
the album Myriad is just unbelievable.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you can find some samples or on YouTube or something. We'll post those. I'll definitely check it out.
I've shared that in my group a couple times. So
cool.
I should have seen it then, but there's so much. The brain starts melting.
Yeah.
So speaking of melting brains, Bill,
yes.
what you got next?
Okay. All right. So last one of our sort of 5. So this is a new band, brand new album. I think it was released mid last year. The band is called Squeaky Feet. And the album is called Cause for Alarm. Now, these guys are interesting. They are in some way, I'm not sure how because I don't follow. Oh,
I got all the dogs up here.
Right. I don't follow the jam band scene that much, but these guys have some relation to that. And I'm not much of a jam band scene fan, but apparently rules are made to be broken. I saw this advertised on Ken Golden's site, Laser's Edge, and it was new. He said, jam band with proggy, elements, and I was like, all right, well, you spend 5 minutes sampling something. I was completely blown away by what I heard. This is, if there's jam band elements, they're very muted, and it's only in the sense that they do go into improv sections. But to me, this is full on just prog rock. They've got they've got symphonic elements, they've got sort of some of the fusion elements and whatnot. Clearly, the guitar players have some grounding in like metal or at least Steve Vai kind of chops and things like that, but it's not shred rock. They take that style and they weave it into this music, so there's a lot of guitar harmonies going on. They interplay with the keyboards really well. There are vocals. The album is predominantly instrumental, and even with the vocal tracks, the instrumental portions are predominant. But the melodies and the lyrics are interesting. They're not, they're thoughtful, and the melodies are very interesting. They're different and unique, like kind of like Gentle Giant melodies. And this is with the resurgence of vinyl, we're now getting CDs that come out. It's 35 minutes long, and you're just like, seriously, 35? I mean, it is a CD, guys. You can make a 44-minute, CD. That's okay. This CD is 79 minutes and 58 seconds or something. And I'm not kidding. I get to the end of this album, and I'm like, that's it? It goes by so quickly because the diversity of stuff here. And there is never a dull moment. It is, I truly can't believe it. I'm checking their website constantly to see because they tour a lot. And if they come up to Massachusetts, New England area, I am all over these guys. And you know, I saw him on Greg's, excuse me, I saw him on Ken Golden's site. So obviously Prog, you know, vendors have some, you know, cognizance of these guys. But I just think if more people heard this band, you know, it has they have the ability to appeal to people who like the Gentle Giants and the Yeses and the more, you know, challenging stuff, but also folks who like, you know, more of the neo prog and stuff. They have stuff to draw in everybody. So I think they could be, you know, they could garner quite a bit of popularity if more people knew about them. So Squeaky Feet, cause for alarm. There is cause for
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. I am gonna, because of, you know, my kids and that, I'm gonna have to probably leave here in a minute, but I have a question for you. When you are like going out of the, you know, the little prog box and you're going out and listening to new bands, how hard is it for you or to get past, like, either if you got a vocalist that you don't care for or their lyrics are just kind of weird? I have a hard time getting past if I just don't like the vocalist, or if their lyrics are, you know, maybe just not appropriate or something like that. I have a really hard time getting into a new music because of those two reasons. Like Banco, what's that one? What that is called?
Banco,
There's
Banco del Mutuo Soccorso. You don't
Yeah.
like Francesco De Giacomo.
I tried their music. I like their music, but it was really hard for me to get into them because of that reason. PFM was another one. I just, it's hard for me to get into a band. It has to have the whole package for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can,
you know, Gentle Giant.
a voice can stick out and just draws your attention away from everything else. Or
Yeah,
what,
or draw you in.
yeah,
For that matter.
or mixing, you know. Sometimes you hear a mix that, you know, why is that up front? You know, why do you
Yeah.
have the snare drum so predominant?
Yeah. Well, there was, when they transitioned over to making music on CD, there were a lot of bands that kind of put out music right when that happened. And Rush's Signals is one that they lost so much with the sound where that record was produced. People have always complained about, you know, not because it was on CD, but the missing piece, which they're just doing the new remix on that. Have you heard that, Frank? I mean, have you heard much off of that album?
I've looked at a couple of things. Mine's supposed to be here at the end of the month.
Yeah, that's still the cover.
That was when a lot of the albums came out after my good four, which is Octopus, Free Hand, Power and the Glory, and Glass House. Interview and on, when they came out, I just kind of went, but
Yeah.
I went back and listened. Although Missing Piece was kind of fun. 2 Weeks in Spain is a great tune.
Sure.
There were some just great rocking tunes on there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that is. I want to get a Blu-ray Atmos system so I can, because I'm getting the ones with all the 5.1 and all that one of these days. So,
Well,
okay. So now it comes to one of my favorite albums. Again, it was probably M&M Music that I saw this, and it was described as the most complicated record ever done. And that is Rascal Reporters, Happy Accidents.
Mm-hmm.
There's something, you know, Kirk, you kind of hitting on it. This strikes a chord. Every time I listen to it, it takes me somewhere. There's a feeling, it's like a feeling of remembrance. It's really odd. Not like when I hear Brown Eyed Girl, I go back to junior high school and having Jan Parker tell me, "Oh, Frank, you're just like a brother to me." You know, this whole thing just comes back. But it's two guys, and they all play, you know, they play keyboards, drums, wind instruments, things like that. And it almost sounds, in a way, it almost sounds like section. They do a section and then they go somewhere that's not necessarily quite related to what, but not in a way that it's so jarring. Wonderful, wonderful album. This Happy Accidents is the first part was released, I think, in like '88, and then they were putting together a new thing, and so the bonus tracks are like from '94, I think it was. All these notes. Something like that. '96, I think, when this came out. The guys are I love this one picture of the one guy. He's like in the hospital. And then the other guy looks like something you'd see in a business brochure. But the music is awesome. They do have other albums. Where God was their really first one. Riding on a Bummer, Happy Accidents, Purple Entrapment, The Foul-Tempered Clavier. Love that. The Mind Boggles. Just last year, The Strange Case of Steve. And then a Ducks in a Row. Good album.
You know, I think that I'm going to go here, but I do want to plug this book a little bit, because if somebody is watching this and they're just like, you know, I do want to expand my horizons, I think it's a good thing to have a good foundation of knowing where progressive rock came from, and knowing, you know, about how the bands kind of interacted, members moving from one band to the next, or one band kind of evolved from another band. But knowing the kind of the roots of where progressive rock came from, and being exposed to some of the classic albums you probably may not know about just because they're out of print, and the internet is like a sea of available music. Anybody that's making new music nowadays, you really have to be something special to even get noticed, because you're just swimming in a sea of people that are putting out, you know, all kinds of stuff. But I think many times, if you have that good foundation of knowing who the classic progressive rock artists are, and you're familiar with, you know, some of their back catalog that you may not have known about, and then you branch out from there. You kind of have, because I think we all are kind of looking, or you guys, at least being my age, probably branched out into some of these obscure albums because we were looking for more of, you know, Gentle Giant's catalog ended. You know, the really good Yes years ended, you know, and, you know, we look for those things that struck that chord with us. And so, you know, in branching out, that's kind of what we're looking for, most of us, at least in my generation. You know, we're kind of looking for the next Yes, we're looking for the next Jethro Tull or whatever. But I think it's a good idea to branch out as well. You know, I kept all my musical interest really limited, and I think I missed out on some good stuff, you know, because of that. But I'm gonna have to go, guys. But hey, thanks for inviting me.
All right.
Good to see you.
Yeah, and we'll have to do this again. And Bill, I hope you and Madeline have a good year. And Frank, I'll talk to you sometime soon. Okay.
All right. You take it easy.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right. Bye.
See you later.
Yeah, it's funny that book. Do you have that book?
I don't. so there must have been parts of it online or, or whatever, but I'm familiar certainly with it. Yeah. But,
I got it just
Yeah.
because this is interesting. And I didn't realize that Pink Floyd started out as a psychedelic pop band,
oh, yeah.
doing flower power songs.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Right.
Interesting. Went back and listened to them. When they were
Arnold
doing
Lane, right?
Yeah, it's funny.
Threw that in my first book, or maybe the second one, where he meets a girl, or he calls a girl and she's on Arnold Lane. I just thought that was fun to toss that in there. A little Pink Floyd reference. Yeah.
Okay, where are we?
Well, I've
Where are-
been through so you asked us for 5 groups or albums, and I've been through my 5. I have a couple of alternates if you want to.
Let's hear them.
Okay, all right. Oh, I didn't have room on the keyboard here. All right, so this is a really interesting one. So back in the 2000s, I was writing reviews for John Collins at Progression magazine.
Oh.
And so he would send me, 8 CDs or whatever, and I would listen to them and write the reviews. And I did that for several years. Most of them I did not wind up keeping. Similar to Kirk, my tastes are a bit are probably far less limited than his, but more limited than many people like you. I think you range much more broadly into some of this kind of Zappa-esque avant weird, Alamaailman, Vasarat, and Rascal Reporters stuff that, that's sort of where I kind of draw the line, but it's there. But this one is one that is interesting. So this is Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring, done for guitar, bass, and drums, a trio by one guy named John Ringer. And I mean, when I got it, I was just like, ugh. I mean, I'm not really that into guitar, bass, and drum trios, especially in Prog, because they just tend to get really noodly, and so I was dreading this one. I put it on and listened to it, and it was like I was magically transported into the world of what King Crimson could have potentially done with this piece. It is absolutely stunning. It's almost impossible to describe how this guy, I mean, he's got a Rickenbacker bass, he's got a Fender Strat, and he's got a very normal sounding drum kit. And he has just put this, he has orchestrated it in such a way that the bass and the guitar work together to execute the parts. And I just don't know how he did it. This would be so far beyond my capabilities. And I listened to it again about a week ago, or 10 days ago. And again, I was just like, how in the world did this guy do this? And it sounds, I mean, it starts off, it's like, it sounds like a Strat and it sounds like a Rick, but by the end of the album, you just get these orchestral tones that he's able to produce with these 2 instruments. And it must have just, I don't know, it must have been one of these labor of intense passions that he had to get all this done, and all by himself. I mean, how did he record the drums? How did he? I have no idea how he did it. On the back of it, he says, a word about digital copying, unauthorized duplication. I have a really scummy job. If you exceed the principle of fair use and use modern technology to obtain a copy of this CD without paying for it, or enable another person to do so, you aren't helping the situation.
Yeah.
So obviously he has a sense of humor, but I mean, I think it's on Discogs. People can find it. It might be on YouTube. I didn't look. I'll have to check, you know, for our links. But man, it really is. It's almost like if King Crimson decided instead of on side 2 of Poseidon to do the Rites of Spring instead of Mars for, you know, what they call Devil's Triangle. This is what it would sound like. It's that good. I mean, it just is killer. And it's not anything you'd expect. So yeah, crazy, weird record. So, yeah.
Cool. Cool. So I had some other ones here that, well, Frank Zappa, Phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard it?
I have not. I'm not a huge Zappa fan.
Well, this is the Synclavier.
Oh,
Zappa.
okay. Right.
And
Yeah.
this was actually the last thing that he released before his death.
Oh, really? Oh, it wasn't Yellow Shark? I thought it was Yellow Shark.
Well, both these I think were about the same time.
Same time, yeah. Okay.
Let's see, I got Yellow Shark here, 93. And sometime.
Yeah.
Civilization Phase 3 has got a lot of interspersed just chatting and, you know, all this interplay. And it takes place inside of a grand piano. He wanted to do it on stage, you know, kind of like his 200 Motels. And I usually sequence it so I'm not listening to the just junk talking and stuff, because to me it just didn't do anything.
Right.
Yellow Shark, of course, is brilliant. The orchestra, Ensemble Modern, I think it is, just nailed the heck out of that. And then, of course, there's Jazz from Hell. I thought I had a copy. Have you heard Jazz from Hell?
I don't think so.
Again, Synclavier. And it's in fact, one of the numbers that they do on Yellow Shark is a G-spot tornado, which is from Jazz from Hell.
Mhm.
So they had to transcribe this thing. But fun stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't explored. I know his earlier stuff fairly well, but I kind of lose touch after pretty much after Shut Up. Or yeah.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah, he put
There's
out
so much.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. Well, I think that's the best of what I had to offer.
Okay. I'll bring up a couple of shorties. Motor Totemist Club.
Oh yeah, I know them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of a chamber rock, nice stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
There's a couple others that I don't have physical copies. I'll put up a cover in the thing. How you pronounce it? Miriodor.
Miriodor.
Yeah. Mekano.
Yeah, yep. That's among my favorites of theirs. I have all their stuff. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
I like them a lot. Yeah.
It's talk about quirky.
Yes, they're very quirky. Yep.
That's awesome. It's just then there was
I've seen them play as well a couple of times.
Wow.
Yeah, saw them at Nearfest and saw them one other time as well. I can't remember when. Yeah, they're great.
Tamandua. That's to me, it almost sounds like an American version of these guys.
Okay.
In a sense.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. Yeah.
So good band. But I found out about them from I can't think of his name right now, dang it. The drummer from Advent.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because you realize that the drummer in Tamandua is Rick Lonber.
Right, that's the name.
was our right. So he was
No, it was, I'm sorry. I'm getting everything
yeah,
confused.
yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he brought it up during
Tamandua was where I went to see Tamandua playing in Cambridge a couple of times and saw Rick play. And you know, when Mark got sick, well, when Mark passed away, actually, we didn't know what we were going to do. And I'd talked to Rick and knew he was into the prog stuff, and so he stepped in, helped us finish the record, and is now, part of the group.
yeah, he did a beautiful job doing the crossover, as it were.
Yeah. What's
Um,
interesting about that Tamandua album, he wrote a lot of that material,
Yeah,
like Skeleton Boat and a couple of others, which are among my favorite tracks. And yeah, he's actually got a very good sense of composition. I think that's what made him good for Eccentric Orbit, because I think he got the scope and the sweep of things, and could contribute, statements within his drumming that really help things out tremendously. He's got a very musical style. So, but yeah, Tamandua was great.
I'm going to show one more real quick and then we'll
Yeah.
move on. Walter Carlos, Wendy Carlos,
Yeah. Okay.
Sonic Seasonings, which was really, this is back in 72, I believe, and 72. And it's 4 sidelong ambient, there's summer, winter, spring, and fall. And I used to just put that thing on and just zone out. It was great. But that was back when it was Walter Carlos.
Right.
And I won't go into all that other stuff. The music still is good. So speaking of Eccentric Orbit, you are working on a new song.
Yep. It's a little celebration of the so February 2004 was when the first album was released, and that's the second album.
Oh, you can't see it.
Yeah, the second. It's under Gary Green there. The second record. Oh no, I can see it now. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
That's another band I sometimes listen to.
Yeah.
Down below.
Right. And then actually in 2014, the second record came out. So they were 10 years apart. So it's kind of a dual anniversary year. And so Tom said, we did for the tracks Creation of the Humanoids and By Air Express to Venus, we developed a mode of writing which was really kind of interesting. We would basically throw ideas back and forth via either MIDI or audio or some combination thereof, starting with very small little ideas and building them up, sometimes going forward, sometimes saying, hey, this is a great middle, but we need a building it out in either direction. And of course, creation of the Humanoids wound up being a 20+ minute long epic that started with one little germ in the second part, I think it was. That's where it wound up, and it got recapitulated later. But so he wanted to do that again. We did have some leftover stuff kicking around, but he wanted to start from scratch. And so we have done that. We worked very effectively, as always, batting ideas back and forth and building off of what each other did, which is often a very, it's very different for me. When I compose, usually I'm working by myself.
Right.
And I very rarely surprise myself. Whereas when Tom sends me something, it's like, surprise. And now, and he's good. He's got a very, very sophisticated musical palette, far more so than mine. And so it's a huge challenge for me to build off of and play off of what he does. What I think we try to do is sort of, I add the muscle and he adds the brains. So he can sort of do all the nuances and the subtleties and all of that, and I bring in the the rock and roll. So and I think that that marriage actually works very well for what we do. It keeps it eccentric orbit, which is a very rock oriented thing. I wrote pretty much I wrote everything on the first album basically, except for a couple of solos. So it's a very rock oriented record, with some proggy flourishes. The second one is more sophisticated, and that's Tom's doing for sure. So, but yeah, we have the song is the composition is down. We've got a draft MIDI file, and now we all get to go and shed our parts before we go into. Well, I'm going to probably record most of my parts here in the studio, and I'll work with Madeline and see what she wants to do. The computer is actually sitting on her keyboard, so she's got her keyboard. We got her a new wind synth. It's not the top of the line one anymore, but it's got some built-in sounds and stuff that we can probably get some decent sounds out of it to do stuff. So we'll see whether she wants to use the sounds that are in that or go to Tom's house where he's got racks of gear and VST plugins and this and that and the other, and do something more more sophisticated on the sound front. But now Rick is going to do the drums, but Rick has had a little I can't remember exactly what it was he had, but he had some surgery on something, and he is in recovery mode. So he won't record his parts for some time, but basically we'll get everything teed up for him and then find a studio where he can go in and do his parts. But yeah, that will be out before the end of the year, because it's got to be out in 2024 because that's the anniversary year. Right.
To qualify.
Yeah. So more on that as it develops.
Is there a name for this piece?
There is. It's a working title. So we often use science fiction stories as sort of, creative fodder. And interestingly, Tom wanted to use a PK Dick book. I'm not sure if he was basing it off the movie or the book, but the character Deckard from Do Androids Dream or Blade Runner, as most people know it. And of course, I'm a gigantic Phil Dick fan, and that was cool by me. So I don't know that it necessarily tells a story like Creation of the Humanoids does, or like Day the Earth Stood Still or Forbidden Planet really kind of musically tell the story. You can trace parts of it to the films themselves. This is more of an impression of sort of Deckard and his dilemmas, exactly, his dilemmas, particularly the big scene in the book. I mean, to me, the book is really the primary thing.
I've read it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, it's different from the film.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and there's a big scene where he goes out in the desert and has this kind of epiphanal sort of experience, and so yeah, and that is a lot of what was kind of churning around in my mind and Tom's as we were writing it. So Deckard is the working title. We might say I might offer Deckard's Dream as a possibility, but I don't know. I don't know what the final will be, but it's going to be some variant thereof.
Epiphany.
Deckard's Epiphany.
Love that word.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Fun to say.
Yep.
Well, cool.
Well, that's the situation. Yeah.
Brave Pursuit. you were working on a third album?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we got to see where that's going to go because we've moved. So Brave Pursuit is effectively done. Unfortunately, yeah, we're done as a playing unit. We have 5 or 6, 6 or 7 songs in some state of recorded, like drums and some guitar down, and that's usually how we do it. It's a strange process, but Pat and Steve basically record the drums and at least a guide guitar track together. And so, the key being getting the drums down. And then I usually go in and put the bass, Madeline puts the keyboards, and then Pat can do his solos and maybe even replace the guide guitar track. And then at the end, I do the vocals. But when we moved, I think the project has lost a lot of steam, and they've had some issues with with aging parents and whatnot, which I went through years ago. They're going through now. So yeah, there's a lot of there's stuff going on that is getting in the way of that. Yeah, life. But we've got we've got a record. It'd be a little different. I mean, the original concept of this was that it was going to be a double record. And a longer one, because we did have a lot of material kicking around, but we never really got a chance to play a lot of that material either in the rehearsal room or at gigs. And so the stuff that we never really kind of got to that point with, we're just going to kind of leave out. But we've got a 40+ minute record in there somewhere with a couple of covers, and the way we do covers is always, a reinterpretation of the song.
Exactly. I really like to.
Yeah. Really different.
Especially Woodstock.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah. Well, we're taking on another Beatles tune, and
Which one's that?
Norwegian Wood. Yeah. But it won't be anything like the original.
There's good bones there.
Yeah, there are interesting bones. Yep. It's actually a very dark song. And so
the lyrics are a little strange.
Yeah, it's dark.
What's going on here?
Yeah, well, it's dark. And so I sort of when I did the arrangement on that, and I actually change it from a major sonority to a minor sonority, and it's a heavy rock song. So yeah, it's a very different song. And then a Simon and Garfunkel tune as well. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Heckaroony, I think we've pretty much destroyed this stuff.
Yeah.
You go ahead and send me links to everything you talked about.
Will do.
Once this gets posted, it'll all be there for those that want to check out this stuff. I definitely want to check out some of this stuff.
Indeed, yeah. It's a couple. Yeah.
So, thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting.
There's an interesting post that you did a while back about the CDs for Eccentric Orbit.
Oh, right.
You were just giving them away. Did you get a lot of?
A few. Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of CDs, let's just say. So I thought it was fun to do something for the anniversary.
The thing is that you put that song out, you could sell a few more.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Interestingly,
I worked on
what
videos.
happened originally, I put it on Progressive Ears. I put the offer on Progressive Ears. Nobody for weeks took me up on it, but I had a huge uptick in sales. I'm like, are you kidding me? The people said, well, I'm not going to take it for free, but I'll buy it. I'm like, okay.
All right.
Fine with me. Very nice. And I much appreciated, but I really, I want these records in the hands of, prog fans and collectors who want to have them at this point.
You know that I'm probably your biggest fan.
Yes.
And I really believe in the music, the vision, the it's the word I'm thinking of, the how you did it,
The
you know.
insanity.
The insanity. But so yeah, I hope it gets out there. I've been working on I've had to put it away for a bit, but working on humanoids
Okay.
videos
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and using
Cool.
a lot of the movie. See how that goes, like
Right.
what I had with Forbidden Planet.
Right.
I think I have part 1 and part 2 done, but then it just starts getting hard work. So I may post them as just part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
You know,
That'd be great.
yeah. I kind of wanted to get your feedback on that.
Okay. Yeah. Shoot them to me and I'll have a look. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. In that case, I think we can wrap this one up.
Sounds good.
And I should say, if you like this video, like it, subscribe, and things like that. We hope to have more of these kind of things on Bongolong Music. So you guys all be good. Keep listening to Prog, Fusion, anything you want. And we'll talk to you later, Bill.
All right. Thank you much.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.